All right, we are through the second round of group stage action across every single nation and every single group at this World Cup. And man, for all the drama and amazing performances by top names that we had in the first round of group stage action, that dial has stayed turned on in the second round. And if anything, turned up a notch with all the cool stories we have going on. Just like last video after the first round of group stage action, we're going to go group by group in this video and break down how every nation performed in their games and where they all stand entering the final round of group stage action. All right, so a quick disclaimer before starting with Group A. This video is coming out after the final match day is completed in the first three groups. I apologize for that. Been a bit busy over the last couple nights doing everything I should be doing instead of being a degenerate watching all of these games during the day. But I'm still recording this before those groups have played their final match day. So you're still getting my unbiased view of how I feel about each of these teams entering that game in terms of how they did. You'll be able to receipt me for that. And I also wanted to have a holistic view of where each of the teams that are fighting for these 8 third place spots across all 12 groups are stand and where they should be thinking as they enter the final match day across the board. All right, now let's start off with Group A, which, to be honest, I thought set the tone, at least the first game, as the worst day of World Cup action, because Czechia South Africa was not a great showing from both teams. They both showed the same issues that kind of hurt them in the first group stage match. For South Africa, it was carelessness. They conceded a goal very early on, once again, and they're playing on the back foot once again for the second game in a row here at this World Cup. And for Czechia, it's the struggle to assert control of the game and generate stuff from open play. Their first goal was actually often a long throw in down the sideline that quickly turned into a goal. But outside of that, they struggled to create chances from open play. All their main chances were from corners and other set pieces. And because of that, South Africa was able to fight their way back into this game, scrape out a penalty, and end up with a point that keeps both of these teams alive, but both of these teams in a precarious position where they now have to beat superior competition on the final match day. As for Mexico and South Korea, who are likely to be the top 2 teams in this group, they played a very tight, cagey game. It wasn't pretty for Mexico, and it definitely wasn't pretty for South Korea given the insane blunder by the goalkeeper. I feel for that man. But South Korea, they did a great job generating chances against Czechia. Did not really feel that here against Mexico. I think they were kind of quiet 87 minutes in. I felt like Kang In Lee, he's one of the main creators on this team. He was playing so far back. It felt like he was playing left back or CDM at times, and I would like to see him push up more on the field so that he can be more of the focal point of this team's attack, especially in a game against South Africa where they're going to need to be at the forefront. As for Mexico, they've not played at their best in this World Cup, but Raul Rangel, that goalkeeper, on that header in the 87th minute to make that double save, which is incredible how he made that, has enabled Mexico, with the mistake of South Korea, to get the win, to secure top of Group A, and make sure that they can be in Mexico playing knockout games until the quarterfinals. Huge accomplishment for them. South Korea should still be okay. They just need to beat South Africa, and they should be favored to do that. Czechia is the interesting team here. They are likely to be third place in this group, but in order to get in as a third place, they're probably going to have to beat Mexico, albeit a rotating Mexico. Still, it's going to be tough to do on away soil. On to Group B, which had a couple blowouts, although in the case of Switzerland and Bosnia, it did not look like it was going to be a blowout 70 minutes in, because Bosnia did a good job keeping the game a bit cagey, kind of like the Canada game. They did not generate much in attack, but they held firm in defense. And when it was 11 on 11, Switzerland, once again, similar to Qatar game, struggled to really generate clear-cut chances. But then they had the one chance with Manzambi off of the failed clearance from Bosnia to break the game open. And then once they had the red card in open play because Bosnia started to open up to try and chase a goal, they really capitalized and got those clear-cut chances that can hopefully carry them into the final group game against Canada to try and get the top spot in this group and into the knockout rounds. You get a goal from Vargas, you get another goal from Manzambi, you get the penalty from Xhaka, and while Bosnia had a wonder goal on that corner kick, what a volley that was, it wasn't enough. Good bounce-back win for Switzerland, and they are now looking calm to at least get back to the knockouts. Then we get to Canada and Qatar, 2 teams that had never won a World Cup game before, and Canada made sure it would be them winning their first ever World Cup game, and they did it in belt to ass style. domination from start to finish. Jonathan David hat trick, his first goal, unbelievable. And get well soon Ismail Kone, who suffered a unfortunate injury in this one, although Saliba with that free kick with a very lovely touching tribute to him right after that injury. Qatar, 2 red cards in this one, very sloppy, but not over for them. They enter a game against Bosnia on the final day, which is going to be for a spot in the knockout rounds. 4 points should get you through as third place in this group, and both of those teams are likely win and in. But that's likely to be a cagey match, and it could still end up as draw where both teams share a point as the game starts cagey and then gets more open as we move on. And then Switzerland and Canada is going to be for top of the group. Switzerland is probably the more talented team, the more experienced team, but Canada has been playing very well in terms of creating chances. They've been the better team over the first 2 games at generating chances. I would not be surprised if at home Canada can find a way to top the group and make sure they're playing knockout games, their first ever knockout games in Canada. We move forward to Group C, starting with Scotland and Morocco, and this was a very tightly contested match. Scotland put up a very strong fight. They battled well, especially in the second half. They had their chances to go get this one. McTominay, off the top of my mind, had 2 pretty good looks at an equalizer. They just couldn't get it, and eventually Morocco's quality just outshined Scotland's in this one, especially in attack. It was a moment of magic early on from Saibari as the forward, de facto forward for Morocco, creating and scoring the goal that made the difference in this one. And Scotland just doesn't have that talent in attack, and that felt like the difference here. Morocco gets their win. And so does Brazil. Brazil takes care of Haiti. Haiti with the high line got cooked many a times. Rafinha had a goal ruled out for offsides too, but Vinicius got going, Cunha got going. Comfortable win for Brazil, although I will say credit to Haiti for fighting pretty strongly in the second half, trying to chase a goal. They did create a fair few chances. Unfortunately, though, their World Cup is now over, Haiti's. And we enter a final match day where we have Brazil against Scotland, where Scotland is the 3rd place team and is going to be trying to get a result against Brazil, or else they'll be at a tenuous 3 points. How much they lose by is going to factor in. We're going to get to that later. And Morocco goes up against Haiti with a chance to go top this group if they can beat Haiti by more than Brazil did, which means kind of hanging 3-4 goals on Haiti, which is definitely doable. So I can see a world where Morocco, Brazil are fighting for goal difference here at the end, and I think top of the group can go either way. In Scotland, they're going to be fighting for their lives. We move on to Group D, which is officially been won by the USA. The US has won a group for the first time since 2010. That's 16 years for me. And my time as a fan, I've never seen the US win a group. This is a cool first time experience. They did it in Seattle. What an atmosphere Seattle was for the US men's national team, bombing country roads at the end of the game. And the US, while it was semi-ugly, a semi-comfortable win for them without Christian Pulisic, they had the chances generated early again. Another own goal goes their way. And then also off that corner, Alex Freeman getting the rebound goal for them. And while Australia slowly grew into the game in the second half, they just didn't have the quality in attack. And I think a big part of the reason Australia grew into the game in the second half is they subbed on Irakunda. Irakunda is a difference maker for Australia, and he needs to start that final game against Paraguay and any potential knockout rounds they play, because when he's in, their attack has just been on another level. It was nowhere to be found in the first half without him. And he's going to be key for Australia to get to where they want to get to now, which is the knockouts. As for the other game, which was Paraguay-Turkey, this game was complete dark arts. Some generational time wasting from Paraguay in this match after their early first-minute goal. And what a goal that was off the long shot turnover from Turkey. But from that point, it was 88 minutes of dark arts time wasting. They literally had a delay in the match by stretchering off a sub for a cramp. They were doing everything in this game, faking injuries, to try and make it go as fast as possible. But wins are wins. Wins are wins. They still get the clean sheet despite Miguel Almiron having a terribly bad mistake in this one by covering his mouth like that and getting a red card for it. But in spite of being on 10 men for an entire half, Turkey could not break him down. And Turkey had a lot of chances to break them down, especially towards the end of that game. They had every single chance to go get a goal. They had 61 something shots, I think 62 total shots over the course of the first 2 games. and 0 goals. 62 shots and 0 goals. It is poor attacking, poor finishing rather, and execution. And a lot of those shots are long shots, not quality chances, although they did have big chances at the end of this game to go get that equalizer. It's a very disappointing tournament for Turkey to be eliminated, straight up eliminated after 2 games. I thought they would win this group. That's how talented I know they are. That's how talented they should be. One of the biggest disappointments of this World Cup for sure. And it opens the door for Australia and Paraguay, who play each other on the last day, both on 3 points, to go get second. And if they draw, which I think both teams would be very content with a draw, they can both get through, one of them via the third place route with 4 points. Meanwhile, the US has now won Group A. That game against Turkey is now meaningless, which feels crazy to say. The US is playing a meaningless game at the World Cup for qualifying early. I hope that momentum carries on to the knockouts. We move to Group E, and man, I have a lot to say about Group B, and that starts with Germany and Ivory Coast. This was one of the games of the tournament for me. Because Ivory Coast put up a battle. They really put up a strong battle. You look at the XG for this game, it was like 1.9 and 1.2. Ivory Coast had chances in this game, and they scored the first chance of this game with some beautiful work from Yan Diomande, once again setting up the goal for Kessié for Ivory Coast to take a 1-0 lead. And they had Germany on the ropes in this one. Germany struggled throughout the first 45 minutes of this game. They did create chances throughout, but were unable to finish. But once Germany put on Deniz Undav, who honestly has an argument to start at this point with the amount of chances he's generated in the first 2 games against Curacao and Ivory Coast, he has been quality for them. He scored on the first goal from that lob over the top from Amiri. And then at the end of the game, in stoppage time, that bullet pass from Mmecha to find Undav. Speak of guys having great tournaments. How about Mmecha? But he finds Undav on a ground ball pass. All of a sudden, Undav's through on goal. Tidy finish, and Germany pulls off the come from behind win. That doesn't mean Ivory Coast didn't have chances to go get this win, though. Kessie had a chance in the second half to put the game away. Adingra in the 87th minute had a one-on-one opportunity with the keeper, but decided to take a touch, and then the opportunity was gone just like that. That's how football works. Ivory Coast had a chance to win this game. But Germany created chances all game long. They eventually seized control of this game, and a game that they probably don't win in a World Cup in 2018 and 2022, they win in 2026, and that's a good sign for them. But Ivory Coast has made it clear that they can compete in this World Cup, and if they can just take care of business against Curacao, well, they're going to go through. The problem is, it might not be easy to take care of business of Curacao, because Curacao, with a population of 150,000, and with a national team that's only been in existence for like 15 years, has just gone into the history books by drawing Ecuador in the stunner. Yes, stunner of the World Cup. This is more stunning to me than Cape Verde getting a point against Spain, because Cape Verde is further along in terms of where they are in terms of international footy. But Curacao, they've literally only been around for 15 years. Ecuador is supposed to be the dark horse. Oh my, what a tournament for dark horses between Turkey and Ecuador, by the way. But they are supposed to be a dark horse in this cup. They can compete with anyone. They literally beat Argentina in qualifying. They came second in South America above Brazil. Ecuador is a quality team. But when they were asked to play on the front foot today, in this game, not today, but in this game against Curacao, they could not. They could not play on the front foot. While they did generate plenty of chances, could not score. Eloy Room with a masterclass performance. How many saves? 15, 16? Unreal performance. Ener Valencia had many chances, many clear-cut chances missed. Gonzalo Plata skied another. Ecuador had poor finishing. You know, as good as Eloy Room was, and I credit those 15 saves, it was very poor finishing from Ecuador. They had plenty of good chances to go get that goal. They didn't. But who cares? Who cares? If you are Curacao, you take that point. That is a well-fought point. That is all as much as they could have asked for in this World Cup. They were in a proverbial group of death, per se, considering the 3 opponents in their group, and they have a point. And technically, with a win against Ivory Coast, they could finish second. They could finish second in this group. Just incredible scenes, and Ecuador is now in trouble because they have to, and I mean have to, beat Germany to advance as likely a third-place team, assuming Ivory Coast does take care of Curacao and at least gets a result to get third. But to be fair for Ecuador, with how they play, they're one of those teams where they can't have the front foot in the match, kind of struggling from the issues that Bosnia and Czechia have in terms of attack, but they can defend. They can very much defend, and so maybe that game against Germany suits them a bit better. I don't know. They're definitely not out of it, but they are in a tough spot needing 3 points against Germany, albeit who will now rotate as winners of Group E. All right, we hit Group F, and I'm going to try and pick up the pace here, starting with Netherlands and Sweden. Just a careless first 20 minutes from Sweden. They made a lot of mistakes in the first 20 minutes, and the Netherlands pounced on them. Their attack looked very explosive. This was a dangerous statement type of win from the Dutch with how potent they looked in attack, and they were killing Sweden on the same move, that run down the field, through ball down the side into the cross to Brabi or Gakpo from Dumfries or Gakpo. It killed Sweden like 3 or 4 times in this match for goals, and as a result, Netherlands gets a good win. Although Sweden looked a bit better in terms of chance creation in the second half, and Alenga's looked good in both World Cup games. He should get a look in at a start in this final one, but Sweden's going to have to get a bit more tighter in defense as they enter this one against Japan, because similar to Scotland, same position, 0 goal difference entering a game against Japan, which they are favored to lose, and third place, that 3-point marker is where goal difference is likely going to matter to get out as a third place team, so Sweden cannot get embarrassed like they did against the Dutch. As for Japan, just another strong win for them against Tunisia, who has been one of the biggest disappointments of this tournament. They have looked terrible. Ueda with 2 amazing goals. Take your bow. The bullet from the top right of the box, the pinpoint header over the top of the keeper. It was a great performance, and they evened out goal difference with the Netherlands to create an interesting final day, as they need goal difference. Sweden needs to avoid too high a goal difference, and Netherlands also is going to try and stat pad the goals to try and get first in this group, you would think. On to Group G, which is as wide open as any group for someone to finish first in, because Belgium, which was the clear favorite for this group entering the tournament, has now drawn both Egypt and Iran. In the Iran game, they had their chances. They couldn't convert them. And eventually a careless, unfortunate mistake by Ngoy meant they were down to 10 men from the 70th minute onwards. Although once they went down to 10 men, are we sure they actually went down to 10 men? Because they almost felt more in control from that point forward with a man down. I don't know what Iran was like there. It almost felt like they came into this game to play for a point, and then once the red card happened, they were almost shell-shocked themselves. Like, do we actually go ahead and try to be on the forefront of this game, or do we try to secure the point that we came here to with the goal of getting? And instead, we had a moment where they ended up getting more dominated for 20 minutes, and Belgium had plenty of chances to try and get the surprising goal once they were down to 10 men. They did not get it, though. We end up with a 0-0, and both teams are on 2 points, entering a pivotal final match day where a result is needed for both of them to get out of this group, although they would prefer a win to go try and get top 2, because if you can win this group, and both teams still have a chance to win this group, it's a decent path to actually progress in the knockout rounds versus if you end up as a third place example where it's more likely to be a bit more difficult. As for Egypt, though, who are now in the driver's seat to go get first in that group, they were down 1-0 at half to New Zealand. New Zealand's height was causing problems for Egypt on that corner. Is where they get the goal, but Egypt, they did a great job putting pressure on New Zealand, just dominated this game in the second half, and eventually their chance creation paid off. Mo Salah with the go-ahead goal, and Egypt gets their first ever World Cup win. They are now likely to go through on 4 points, and with the result against Iran, if Belgium doesn't go off against New Zealand, Egypt wins this group. Or if Egypt beats Iran, Egypt wins this group. And that could really help their chances to actually go win a knockout game in this one, which would be a massive, massive success for Egypt. But the real story here is Belgium, who are now currently third and need to win against New Zealand, really, to get where they were supposed to be entering this group. And I still think they should beat New Zealand. They're going to be a desperate team there, as will New Zealand. Obviously, New Zealand needs a win as well to get out of this group. But it's been a bit disappointing for Belgium, once again. And in a group as light as this one was, where they got a nice draw from every single pot, once again, another disappointment here, but plenty of time to change that narrative. Group H saw a slight return to form in some aspects, as Spain returned to the quality team that they are. Saudi Arabia did not park the bus like Cape Verde did, and they paid for it early and often between Yamal scoring and Oyarzabal getting his brace as well. Spain should now be in the driver's seat to go get first in this group, while Saudi Arabia, the door is still open for them, but both of these teams, their opponents, are in a very interesting position, because Uruguay and Cape Verde played each other, and Cape Verde has gotten another point in a 2-2 draw against Uruguay, which is unbelievable. And once this time, last time was all defending to get that clean sheet against Spain. This time they did it with some goal scoring. But I would say it'd be attributed more to some carelessness from Uruguay on both goals. On the free kick, which, I mean, what a bullet free kick from Cape Verde. Uh, but that wall for Uruguay really trolled. They literally moved out of the way as the free kick was happening, opening the window for that ball to get through and then pass Muslera. And then the second goal, I don't know what Oliveira is doing on that careless pass. And then Muslera, thinking that no one's there, has to try and come race out. And unfortunately, Cape Verde got to it first. It's a nice little tap in. That's how they score their 2 goals. And despite all the chance creation Uruguay had in this one, they were dominating this game late in the first half. That kind of wear thin in the second half. And the 2 goals that they generated, 2 very nice goals that they generated, ended up being just for a point. And they now enter the final match day needing a result against Spain to have a chance in this group. And Spain is going to have to try, because if Uruguay wins, well, then Uruguay finishes above Spain in this group. So Spain will have reason to play in this one. I don't think they're going to rotate fully or too much here. So the pressure is seriously on Uruguay to try and get a point. I think they'd be underdogs. They're in serious danger of not making it out of this group, which is a true stunner. Could be the biggest disappointment to miss the knockouts entirely. And then on the flip side, for Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde, it's win or go home. And for Cape Verde, if they get a point, 3 points with a 0 goal difference should be enough to advance with 3 draws, which would be amazing for Cape Verde as one of the Cinderellas of this tournament. Actually, probably the Cinderella of this tournament. But all it takes is a moment of magic from Al Dosari after that thrashing from Saudi Arabia against Spain. They can turn that around against Cape Verde and get a win against a team that they would have thought entering this tournament is beatable, but that seems a lot more harder now. They can turn the tide, and all of a sudden Saudi Arabia can get through as second place in this group. So it is wide open 2 through 4 in this one. Uruguay is going to be desperate with a tough challenge, probably the toughest challenge of any team entering the final day amongst the desperate ones. And Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, that is wide open. This is going to be a very interesting group to watch on the final day. We move to Group I, which featured France and Iraq, where Iraq actually had 44% possession in this game. That's a lot of possession when you think about how unbalanced these two teams are. But France let them have that possession, and eventually they amped up the press, especially in that second half. And when they did that, Iraq could not handle it. They had made a mistake, Iraq did, on a goal kick that led to an easy tap-in goal from Mbappe from Dembele. And then Iraq turned it over against the press again a few minutes later. That turned into an Elise pass to Dembele for another goal. Just like that, it's a 3-0 win when you had a moment of magic from Mbappe in the first half. And so Mbappe gets another brace. Once again, these high-profile names showing up at the World Cup. And Mbappe and Messi, who we're going to get to in a sec, are setting up a generational, not just golden boot race, because there's more people contending for that as well, but a generational race for the all-time World Cup goal scorer, which obviously Mbappe has time on his side, but to just watch these two guys go at it while they're also first and second all-time is unbelievable. But that leads us to a pivotal game between Norway and Senegal in this group. It's the swing game of this group that we all thought would likely decide second versus third, and Norway goes ahead and gets it. And Senegal, man, Senegal was very sloppy in defense. So many sloppy passes. The mistake from Koulibaly on the first goal, Mendy with 2 big mistakes, one on the first goal, and he should have saved that one, and then one on what should have been a second goal, where I don't know what he was doing with the back pass. Haaland steals it and hits the post. That should have been another goal for Norway. That carelessness cost Senegal a point in this one because their attack looked good eventually in the second half, and they still scored 2 goals. I mean, Ismaila Sarr did a great job finishing in this one, and Senegal did a great job creating chances in this one. But unfortunately, they have 0 points to show for that success in their attack over the first 2 games against tough competition. I wouldn't say superior competition in the case of Norway, even competition there. But Senegal now enters a situation against Iraq where they're at -3 goal difference, 0 points. They need a win against Iraq, and they need to pile on by multiple goals to put the goal difference tiebreaker in their favor. They probably need to win by 2 or 3, but we'll get to that in a sec. And as for Norway, they are through to the round of 32 in their first World Cup back in a minute. That is a huge accomplishment for them. And now they play France with a chance to try and go get a win and go win this group, which would spring a surprise. Although it sounds like, based on the Norway manager's comments, they're going to rotate and prepare for the knockouts and make sure they're rested, which is also a viable route to go. But the fact that they can rest is an accomplishment in and of itself. On to Group J, where the defining story is simply just Lionel Messi, man. Lionel Messi, incredible. 5 goals in this tournament, another 2 in this game. He has been unbelievable. He has all 5 goals for Argentina, and he is the orchestrator and the finisher at the same time. It's greatness personified. And despite his missed penalty, which could have been back-to-back hat tricks for him had he scored it, he is now the new World Cup record all-time goal scorer, and it's another 3 points to Argentina, thanks to him. Although Austria put up a fight, they kept this game pretty cagey throughout. They just don't have the moments of magic that Messi provides for Argentina. But Austria is well and truly alive, although they entered an interesting one against Algeria, who got the win against Jordan. And man, this Jordan team has played pretty damn well against Austria and Algeria. They've had their chances, but they also have serious problems against set pieces. It cost them again in this one. Their goalkeeper has been having a nightmare of a tournament, being indecisive on corner kicks. And as a result, it's cost Jordan to be on 0 points, eliminated here from this tournament. But for Algeria's case, huge come from behind win to go get this one. And they now enter an interesting situation against Austria, where whoever finishes second in this group, if Spain wins their group, the second place finisher in this group has to play Spain in the round of 32. And with both of these teams knowing that with a draw gets them through, they are more likely to play for a draw, right? If I'm Algeria, do I necessarily want to win? I actually want a draw more than anything. I can't lose because I don't think Algeria's goal difference is good enough. It would be at least -3 if they lost. So I don't think Algeria wants to lose. But I don't know if Algeria wants to win and go get second place either. I think they want to draw. Whereas in Austria's case, they can potentially lose by 1 and go get third. I don't know if they want to risk that, which is why I think this game might just end up being a cagey draw that allows both teams to get through, similar to Paraguay and Australia. But it's a very interesting dynamic in terms of how Spain might affect what happens in this game. All right, on to Group K. And, while all the stars are delivering, Haaland had his brace, Messi with a hat trick, Mbappe with a brace, all of them got braces again the day before. Pressure was on for Cristiano Ronaldo to deliver as another big name. And man, he took all that pressure personally. As he said, he is back. What a performance from Portugal, who also is very much back in this tournament. Incredible bounce backing. Midfield did a much better job in this game. Bruno Fernandes, after what I thought, I was harsh on him after the game against Congo. He was fantastic in this game, creating chances. And speaking of guys creating chances, how about the set piece coach for Portugal? Oh my goodness, the creativity. You have using Ronaldo as a decoy on the Nuno Mendes free kick. You have using Ronaldo as a decoy again on another free kick, just trotting forward, and then Bruno tries to chip it over the top to him. That almost worked. And then you have the corner from Bruno. Weird delivery, but it squeaks its way through with everyone from Portugal attacking the near post, bounces off Kushanov, and goes in. It's a 5-0 thrashing from Portugal, although Uzbekistan, for the 1 goal that they had ruled out, that deserves to be a goal purely for the quality of finish. That was a wonder goal, but 5-0 win for Portugal. Uzbekistan, with their goal difference, is probably out unless they routed Congo. And Portugal is in much better shape, although not perfect shape, because Colombia is top of this group thanks to another win, 1-0, grinded out affair against Congo. Congo put up another good fight, and Posse made some good saves in this one. But Colombia was in control early on in this game. They dominated early on in this game, creating a ton of good chances. Munoz had a couple. He had one ruled out as well. But eventually, the game kind of turned a bit more even later in the first half, early in the second. But eventually it's Daniel Munoz who delivers on an unfortunate deflection for Congo, but it's fortunate for Colombia, and it's probably deserved for them to get the 3 points in this win. And now, if they can just draw against Portugal, they would top this group. And let me put in perspective here. Whoever finishes second in this group would likely face Spain if they advanced in the round of 16. Versus on the flip side, you would probably play a third place team if you finish first, and then I think Group B champion or another third place team, I believe, if you advance past that. So it's a much easier path if you top this group between Portugal and Colombia. So both teams, in Colombia's case, they're playing for a result, and Portugal's going to be playing for the win. That's a huge game. And as for Congo and Uzbekistan, it's not over for Congo. Congo's been playing pretty well in this tournament. If they can win against Uzbekistan, 4 points gets them through. Not going to be an easy game. It'll probably be a cagey game, but Uzbekistan likely eliminated. Door is open for Congo to realize the merit that they deserve from how they've played in this tournament to try and go get to the knockout rounds. And last but not least, we end up at Group L, where shout out to Ghana. Ghana has not been good leading up to the World Cup. It's like a perennial tradition. But here in this World Cup, they scrape out a win against Panama, and then they turn the game ugly against England. And it reared its head ugly for England, who struggled to create clear-cut chances in this one, despite high 70+ percentage in possession. That did not mean high 70+% chance of scoring in this game. Ghana did a great job mucking up this game, making England frustrated. And as a result, Ghana, I mean, they had a shout for 3 points, by the way. Konza could have gone a penalty. Bellingham had a moment where he covered his mouth that was not seen. He could have gotten a red card in this game. Ghana could have had a chance for 3 points. They get 1 point. That's a huge 1 point for them against England. What a result. It means they're on 4 points. They're likely going through. And as for England, it's back to the drawing board after a very nice performance and attack in the first game against Croatia. It went back to, I don't want to say Gareth Southgate style ball, because they were in control with a lot of possession here. They just struggled to create chances in this one. So it's back to the drawing board in terms of the attack. And they enter a final game against Panama. Panama's eliminated. They need to win that game still, though, to go get top of this group and make sure they secure the goal difference tiebreaker too in case Ghana were to win, albeit I don't see that happening. They're still in the driver's seat. England will be fine. But Croatia is now in a situation where they got their win against Panama, but also relatively ugly win. Even game or early on, very dead game, not many chances in the first half, but in the second half, Croatia had 2 big chances, 1 moment of magic from Stanisic on that cross. What a cross that was, by the way. And the second chance, which I don't know how Croatia didn't score off the corner, defended into the counterattack, probably should have been a second, but it's enough. Wins are wins. It means Panama's eliminated. It's unfortunate for them. But Croatia is back in a position where if they can just get a result against Ghana, they will be through. And Ghana is pretty secure now. But if they can get a draw, they can get second, which is probably better to be second than third overall. So good for Ghana, man, to try and go get to these knockouts for the first time. And I don't even know when the last time they were in the knockouts was. All right, so we've made it through every group. Now, before we close out this video, I just want to quickly touch on the 3rd place race, just so that we have a high-level idea of where teams will likely need to get to in order to advance. So if we just take a high-level look here, like Czechia and South Africa at a point, one of these teams would need to win to get 3rd at 4 and be a threat, right? Czechia would need to beat Mexico, and South Africa would need to beat South Korea. So let's take the more likely situation that Czechia beats Mexico and is on 4 points. That's one way. Bosnia, Qatar, whoever wins that game is likely getting 3rd. All right. So and that would be 4 points as well. I don't know what the chances that are, but let's put that as a possibility. Then we have Scotland, who, if they get a result against Brazil, would get on to 4 points as well. But let's say they don't get a result against Brazil, which is the most likely scenario, and they would be on 3 points. And let's say they lose by the minimum, 1 goal. So they'd be 3 with a -1 goal difference. And then we have Australia and Paraguay. I think both of these teams are going to be content with a draw. This is likely to be one, but if there's a winner, and if that winner is Australia, Paraguay's goal difference would be rough, and Australia would have a at least -1 goal difference, right? So it's probably 3 to 4 points here too. More likely to be 4, because I think both teams would be content with a draw. Here in Group E would require Curacao or Ecuador to win to have a worthy 3rd place team to consider. The more likely situation is probably Ecuador beating Germany. What do you think the chances of that are? And if so, they would be on 4 points. Group F is Sweden. Can they get a result against Japan? Let's assume, and similar to Scotland, that they can't beat Japan, which is the likely outcome based on odds. But let's also assume it's a minimum loss. So like 3 points, -1 goal difference. Group G, this one's interesting. Because let's say Belgium beats New Zealand, all right, 5 points, right? Then it comes down to Iran. Can Iran get a result against Egypt? If so, if they just get a draw, it would be zero goal difference, 3 points. And if they can get a win, it would be like Egypt then in 3rd on 4 points, which would get it through. So let's say it's Iran with like a draw, 3 points, 0 goal difference, something like that, right? Then we have Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. This is interesting because it needs either Uruguay to get a result against Spain for 3rd place to be in play, or we have a result here. But basically, for a 3rd place to matter, Uruguay has to get a result against Spain, because whoever gets the result in this game between Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia goes through. If there's a loser or if there's a draw, one of these teams is eliminated anyway. So what are the odds Uruguay gets a result against Spain? I would say fairly low. So it's fairly likely Group H at this point does not get 3rd place team through. Group I, Senegal. So this is the interesting one. Senegal needs to beat Iraq. That'll get them to 3 points, and we've talked about it now, right? Iran would likely be on 0 goal difference if they were on 3 points. Scotland and Sweden would at least be on -1, or at best be -1. So for Senegal to have security amongst teams that are third on 3 points, they need to beat Iraq by 3 goals. That would give them the goals for tiebreaker against Iran in all likelihood, and the goal differential tiebreaker on Scotland and Sweden if they were to lose. So I'd say Senegal, the magic number is 3 goals. Group J, Austria, Algeria, we've already touched on that. Very likely this is a draw, but again, if either team loses in a precarious situation at -1 goal difference or -3. Then Group K, it really comes down to if there's a winner in Congo, Uzbekistan. If Uzbekistan wins, probably not getting through given their goal difference. If Congo wins, they will get through with 4 points. And then Group L, if Croatia just gets a result against Ghana, which I'd say is likely, then they would have 4 points, and this group would have a third place team. So if we just take the third place teams right now, so we have Croatia, that's 1. Croatia or Ghana. Group L will get 1. Group K, it comes down to if Congo beats Uzbekistan. So let's put that as like, so we have 1-1. 1 definite, 1 uncertain. Austria, Algeria is like likely. So we'll put that as definite. Let's say Group J gets it. That's 2. Group I is like likely, right? So we'll put that on the right, 2-2. Uruguay, Cape Verde likely not getting it. Iran, let's say, is likely. So let's say 2-3. Sweden is likely to be on that right side on the fringe on 3 points, is 4. Ecuador, unlikely, 5. Australia, Paraguay, let's say they're getting through. So we got D, J, and L that is likely. Group C, we have Scotland there. If they lose slim, they're kind of on that right side on the fringe. And then Bosnia, Qatar, if there's a winner, that's a question mark on the fringe. Czechia, can they beat Mexico? Also on the fringe. So we have about 3 teams, right, that are secure. We have how many teams that get to 4 points with a surprising win, or like a unknown if they can win or not. We have Congo, we have Ecuador, we have Bosnia, Qatar, and we have Czechia. So that would mean if we take 2 out of those 4 things to happen, plus the fact that Uruguay's group is likely not going to have a third place team, that means we've eliminated 3 groups. So with that assumption, where we take 2 out of those 4 unknown situations, plus the fact that it's unlikely that Uruguay's group has a third place team, we've eliminated 3 third place teams, and we've secured 5 third place teams, which leaves 3 spots open for 4 teams: Sweden, Scotland, Iran, and Senegal. And that's why I say it's important for if Sweden or Scotland can get a result to go get on that 4-point threshold. Because if not, Senegal, if they can just get past Sweden and Scotland, or one or the other, they're very likely to get through. So I think Senegal is very much alive in this one if they can win by 2 or 3 goals to get to that -1 number. That seems like the fringe. -1 goal difference and 3 points seems like the threshold. And obviously there's room for that to get a bit higher if we have more of those 2 out of 4 in terms of Congo and Czechia and these types of teams currently on 1 point, more of them winning their games, or it could get a bit further down if they lose. So the threshold is like 3 with a -1 goal difference, and that's what I think the third place teams are going to look out for. How these groups actually end up and who ends up making it out of the third place teams and what that threshold ends up being, that's for me to learn after each team has played its final match day. So I will see you then to break down all those games and set up a preview of the round of 32. Peace.